welcome to another video, and welcome to what is possibly my worst reading month yet. Well, that's not true. It's definitely my worst reading month of the year so far. So this is my April wrap up. Now, April, I had such high hopes for April. April did not go so well. Not only did I not read quite as many books as usual, actually looking at my stacks, I think I did. I read a lot less pages than I normally do. And I DNF'd multiple books. I've actually DNF'd 3 books this month. So, stats first. I finished 10 books and DNF'd 3 this month. So total pages I read this month were 4,296, which is my lowest this year. Last month I was over 6,500. I've got my laptop down here, which is why I'm looking weirdly. And January, which was my next lowest, that was 4,800. So I'm about 600 pages lower than, actually no, about 500 pages lower than my previous lowest month this year. So again, it's fine. Star ratings, I had 1 2.5 star, I had 2 3 stars, 4 3.5 stars, 2 4.5 stars, and 1 5 star. So ratings varied. And in terms of genres, I'm going off my core pile spreadsheet this month rather than my story graph, but this month I read historical fiction, 3 romances, 2 fantasy romances, a middle grade, 3 thrillers, a horror, and a sci-fi. So again, a bit of a mix, but let's go through these. I'm actually going to start off with what I read for Magical Readathon, because April was Magical Readathon month. And I had, if you saw my April TBR, I had decided to change my career from having 7 prompts down to one that only has 4 reading prompts, because I was like, oh, every month I've got to read 7 every time. I'm reading these 7 books. That's kind of at my limit. It doesn't give me enough space to read around it, to do the side quests. I still didn't complete a single side quest. The side quest, the first one was take a photo of a book. Brilliant, I could do that. The second book was read a book with a moon on the cover, and I DNF'd that book, and I never had the time or the energy to pick something else up instead. So I did complete my Magical Readathon TBR. So the 4 books that I had to read, I have got here in front of me. I'm going to go through these ones, and then I'm going to just tell you what they counted for Magical Readathon, and I'll give you a little bit of what I thought of them. So I don't actually remember the classes. Okay, we're going to just wing this. One of the prompts was circles on the cover, so I read The Idea of You because these are circle sunglasses. I gave this one 3 stars. I just found it a bit boring. I wasn't really invested in the characters' relationship. There was a habit of every time either of them saw the other one naked, one of them would say to the opposite person's genitals, "Hi," with about 5 eyes. And it just really cringed me out. That gave me the ick. I was like, no, I'm not on board with this. Which is a real shame, because this was a 5-star prediction for me. I was really excited by this book. I'd heard so many good things. I know that the movie is out today, actually. Today's the 2nd of May, so the movie's just come out. I just didn't enjoy it. It just wasn't for me, so that was a shame. Another one of my prompts was read a book that will get me out of a reading slump, which really was like the perfect prompt for me, because I kind of have fallen back into a reading slump. Yay. Now, a couple months ago, I did a couple of videos that were books to get me out of a slump. So I picked a book off there, and I picked Do No Harm by Jack Jordan. I gave this 3.5 stars. Again, it was fine. I listened to this one on audio, and I don't know whether that impacted my enjoyment. But the main character irritated me. like her whole, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, I can't do the thing. Basically, so like the premise is her son has been kidnapped and she has to kill a man on the operating table to get her son back. And her whole like, I have no idea what I can do. I'm sorry, but yes, you do. You're going to kill that man. Like, you are going to do anything to get your child back. And I just felt like that tension felt very forced, because of course she's always gonna do it. Like, there was never a scenario where she would go, oh, okay, yeah, nah, kill my child. Like, no, that's never ever ever going to happen. So yeah, I also felt like that storyline happened so quickly, and probably at least half of this book followed a whole different plot line, which was connected, but I just then wasn't really interested in that. I really disliked the ending, and not because it was a bad ending, but I just really disliked what the characters did at the end. So yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. And again, this didn't cure a reading slump. I was getting slumpy, and this didn't help me. Potentially, if I'd read it when I wasn't being slumpy, or if I read it with my eyeballs, I might have enjoyed it a bit more, but I didn't. My reading enjoyment wasn't there. For a book with the title in yellow, I went for The Girls of Summer. So this one is an art copy, but in the finished copy, the title is in yellow on the front, but it is on the spine on this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Yay! I really liked the characters. I really liked the setting in Greece. I really liked the kind of viewpoint of going back then, what it's like to be a traveller, and how you make these like really deep friendships immediately. I liked as an adult, kind of referring back to something that happened as a child, as a young person, as a teenager, and realising that it isn't quite how you remembered it to be. I really, really enjoyed this. I would say this is perfect for fans of My Dark Vanessa. It has a lot of similar themes, but yeah, I really liked this one. Highly recommended. 4.5 stars. And then my final book for Magical Readathon, the prompt was Source of Light on the cover, and I read Stormkeeper's Battle, which has got a little sun there. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is the final in a trilogy. It is a really fun trilogy. I would recommend this series, the Stormkeeper series, to middle grade readers. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I do think that I left about 2 years between book 2 and then reading this one, book 3. And that probably did impact my enjoyment. But saying that, I was able to remember a lot of what happened. I still had a great time. 3.5 stars for middle grade is a decent rating. I'm then going to go through my 3 DNFs. So first of all, this is the one that I'm really disappointed by, is A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine. This was the April Fairy Loot adult book. It's a fantasy romance, and I didn't, got about 250 pages, and I was so bored. The romance I didn't enjoy. I felt like it was trying to do everything that has happened in like books such as Akatar, Throne of Glass, but not done well. It just didn't do it for me. I didn't like the love interest. I didn't like the plot. I thought this side, like literally for the 250 pages that I read, our main character and one of the love interests would go into the fairyland, then they'd leave again, and then then they'd just kind of like potter around the house having banter. The thing is the banter was so forced and so bad. There'd be tension, but again, it was like, I looked at him, it was so tense. Didn't like it. And then they go back into the fairyland. The writing I hated. The writing was so like overly metaphorical. Wasn't a fan. I would say that if you liked books like The Starless Sea or City of Stardust, you might enjoy this one. They are books that I also did not enjoy, but I think that they are the kind of books that readers who enjoyed them would enjoy this one. This one I think was actually technically a DNF at the very end of March, but I didn't talk about it in my March wrap up. This is Wild by Amy Jeffs. This is a series of short stories and essays on British and Irish folklore. And it's only about 150 pages. My bookmark's still in there. I'm up to page 127. And I was just bored. Basically, we've got different areas of Britain. So we've got like the fens, the moors, the sea. And Amy Jeffs takes like a story from like this medieval book called the Exeter Book, from like written in Old English, and writes a story inspired by that, and then spends about 50 pages explaining her findings on it and like her research. It's interesting, it's fine, but I just don't have an interest in that subject. So yeah, beautiful book, but I was bored. And then finally I DNF'd Waking Gods by Sylvania Vow. I read Sleeping Giants about 3 years ago, and I liked it. Like, it was decent. It's taken me ages to pick up this one, and to be honest, I really wanted an audiobook and I couldn't find an audiobook anywhere for free, which made me sad. And I just wasn't interested in reading it physically, so I got about 70 pages in. I started this one at the start of the month, and I was about 70 pages in for the vast majority of the month, and then at the end of the month I was like, I'm not going to read this. I just, throughout the whole month, I would be picking up something else other than this every single day, so it just, nope. And I've now DNF'd that series. And I've got two more little stacks that I'm going to go through. So I've got two books that I read for work. Technically there was a third book that I read for work, but I can't talk about that one, so we're going to just ignore it. I read Let Me In by Claire McGowan, which I really... this one is a thriller. It is set in Cornwall and it's kind of got like witchy vibes, and I loved it. There's like a kind of horror element to it as well. Absolutely loved it. So this isn't one that I was paid to work on. This is one that I just read as a tandem read along, so it wasn't like a paid campaign, so I can't tell you about like my review and my ratings on this one. But yeah, really enjoyed this one. I read, put it up here, Lockjaw. Now this is one that I was paid to work on, so I'm not going to give you my ratings. But Lockjaw by Matteo L. Carelli. This one is a YA horror, and we follow... I don't really know how to give you a synopsis for this book, I'll be totally honest, and I actually don't want to give you a synopsis for this book, because it's one where if you go in without really knowing what's going on, you're going to have a much better time. This reminded me of The Last House on Needless Street, but with a teenage cast. And there were parts where I was like, what is going on? There were parts where I literally like said, what the actual fuck is this? Oh my God, like out loud. I just, at times I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I have to keep on reading. The twists I never saw coming. Yeah, if you liked The Last House on Needless Street, then you might like this one as well. It's really good. And then the final one that I read for work is The Lost Love Songs of Boise Sing by Ingrid Persad. This is an absolutely stunning cover. So again, I was paid to work on this one, so I'm not going to be giving you a rating. But this one is a historical fiction set in Trinidad, and it follows, it's told from the perspective of 4 women about the life of Boise Sing. We don't hear anything of Boise's perspective, which I think is brilliant, because he's a horrible man. But we're hearing it from the women that he like impacted. This is based, I believe this is actually based on a true person. I don't know how much of this is fiction and how much of this is like based on truth. What I really liked as well is this is written in Trinidadian dialect, and I think that adds so much more depth to the characters. I genuinely had a great time reading this one. I would highly recommend it. I also would say pick up the audiobook for this one because the audio is incredible. Then the final 2 books that I read, we've got The Catch by Amy Lee. This one is the 3rd book in the Influencer series. So I can't remember what the first one is. Set on You and X's and O's is book 2. This one is book 3. So I have read X's and O's and I gave X's and O's about 3 stars. This one I gave 3.5 stars. I did like it. I don't think Amy Lee will ever be a 5-star romance author for me, but I do think that like she's an author where I could happily pick up and read her books and just kind of like as like popcorn beach reads. This one follows Mel. She is a fashion influencer and she's starting to feel like she's aging out of influencing, like she's not getting the brand partnerships anymore. She's starting to lose followers. She's offered a deal to go and sort of stay and review this resort in Halifax in Canada. However, when she arrives, they've got the dates wrong and she is a week early. So she ends up finding this place to stay. There's like literally nowhere that is open, and she's in this rundown B&B run by this very, very grumpy man called Evan, who is a fisherman. They clash immediately. He thinks she is a spoiled princess. She thinks he's grumpy and rude, and things go from there. There is an accident that happens and Mel tells Evan's family that she is his fiance so that she can actually go into the hospital with him. And then they kind of are fake dating for a bit. Of course, it's a romance. We all know what's going to happen. But I did have a great time reading this. I did think it was super, super fun. Like I said, it's not got that kind of pizzazz and like magic X factor that, say, someone like, who are my 5-star authors? Tessa Bailey, Hannah Grace, probably Emily Henry, you know, that kind of like zest that you can't really put your finger on. But this is a really good, fun romance. I would highly recommend it. Like I said, like if you're away on holiday, if you just want a quick kind of like popcorn read. And then finally, my 5-star read of the month was Girl, Goddess, Queen by B. Fitzgerald. This one came out of left field. I bought this one at the Cheltenham Literature Festival a couple of years ago, mainly because I was browsing and the sales assistant there was like, oh, have you read this one? You should read it. You should read it. It's really, really good. You should read it. You should read it. Hey, have you read it? And I felt a bit intimidated. So I was like, no, of course I'll buy you the book. So I bought the book and then I was like, I'm moving away from YA fantasy. So I was like, I don't know when I'm going to read that. As it happened, I also had got it on NetGalley. It came up on my NetGalley spinner wheel. So I was like, okay, right, well, let's read it. Realised it was a Hades and Persephone retelling and I was like, okay, interested. Got about 100 pages in and I was voice noting my friend saying, who has read this book because it's incredible, and can everybody else get on that please? It's amazing. Yeah, so good. So good. This is, like I said, it's Hades and Persephone, but it's quite a different kind of take on it. So Persephone runs to Hades to basically get out of having to marry a stranger. Fair. It deals with so many fantastic like kind of societal issues. So it's very, very steeped in feminism. There is a lot of dealing with generational trauma, particularly around Hades, because Hades was eaten by his dad when he was, you know, puked up and became a god. He then had to go to war as like a child and had to, you know, kill all these people. He's been given the underworld. He's the god of death. That's quite traumatic. So he deals with that, and also like how can he not be like his father, Cronus. There's also dealing with like difficult parents, again on both sides. Persephone also deals with the generational trauma from the same like kind of issue with Demeter. Discussions of grief, of sexuality. One thing that I really enjoyed, and honestly that it feels so weird to be like, I really loved the fact that consent was a topic, because that should just be standard. But when they do start to hook up, And Persephone is like, yes, no, I definitely want to do this. And, you know, then Hades, she goes, oh, wait. And Hades goes, okay. She's like, oh, no, but. And he's like, no, no, no. No is a full sentence. You don't need to explain why you don't want to have sex with me. Like, you said no, that's fine. That's it, done. And you know when you're just like, yes, 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 yes. So I love this. I am currently bullying most of my friends into reading this book. So if this is on your shelf, if it's on your radar, pick it up. It's incredible. Highly recommend. So this is my pile of books that I read this month. I've not included the DNFs in here because they can all just get in the bin. Yeah, I now feel like I am still a little bit slumpy. I'm doing Mood Read May, so my TBR is very, very lax for May. I've put books that I want to read on my book cart, which is kind of, but I've kind of done more books than I want to get through, just so I've got options. And yeah, I feel like I had an interesting range of books, like I said, ranging from a 2.5 up to a 5. Most of the month though, I feel like my reading was mediocre, with mediocre books and mediocre reading. But I did crochet a whole blanket this month, which is what I did with all of my time actually, instead of reading. But that is it. If you like this video, please leave me a like, subscribe down below, you know the drill, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.